taking my list and checking things done.
Receive a $20 gift card when you become a Plus member this weekend only. Sam's Club. Savings made simple. Limited quantities available on all items. No rain checks.
If it's happening now, you're hearing about it now with Michelle Tafoya on News Radio 830 WCCO.
Good afternoon. John Hines filling in for Michelle Tafoya. If you want to find me, you can find me at Facebook.com/Hines Show. Talking about eating. And eating, I think, becomes somewhat amplified at this time of year. It just becomes bigger, becomes more important now through the holidays. And why do you eat? And might you be feeding something more than just a physical hunger? Dr. Alana Reese-Fine joins me on the line this afternoon. She is with Partners in Healing and knows a little bit about this subject, a thing or two. Good afternoon, Dr. Fine. Thank you for taking time on this Thanksgiving Day.
Hi, and thank you for having me. Happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, let's talk about these reasons, first of all, why people eat. Physical hunger is kind of an obvious one. That makes sense.
Right. Physical hunger is very obvious. It's a type of hunger that comes to people very gradually. They start thinking about food, and they have a good ability to decide what they want to eat. Am I in the mood for this? Am I in the mood for that? And they really enjoy the food, and after they eat it, they feel satisfied and often don't feel guilty for eating something because they were hungry.
Okay. Now, one of the other ones, let's skip around here just a bit, because mindless eating, I think that might be one of these things that I do, because I have jars of nuts here and maybe some kind of a cookie over here or something, so I might just mindlessly go grab something.
Right. And mindless eating is the type of people do where they sort of might have exactly what you're saying, a snack on their desk, and they grab it and just eat a few throughout the day, and then they look at the jar, and the jar has less food than they thought was there when they started.
Yeah.
And studies show if you want to do less mindless eating, if you even just took that jar of nuts and moved it 6 feet away from your desk so you had to go up to get it, you would probably eat 50% less than you were eating.
Well, that's an interesting take on that. That's a very good tip to have if you want to cut back on that. But one of the important things, and I think this is something that becomes a bigger deal, especially at this time of year, because stress and then emotions run back and forth during the holiday time. It's not really a holiday until somebody made mom cry. But we're talking about emotional hunger and feeding your feelings.
Right. And people eat for emotional eating for different reasons. Sometimes because they're sad or they're lonely or they're irritated at their mother or their sister-in-law. And sometimes it could be for joy, that people feel that food has an important role in terms of celebrating.
But now, if we're in a period of the time of year where emotions are going back and forth, and the holidays are kind of, we're people with families today, and it's an emotional time, like you say, whether it's joyful or, sad or angry or whatever. So if you are a person who eats, emotionally, you're just pushing that all more into the fore.
Right, exactly. And I think then it's helpful to know what some of the cues are for emotional hunger to be able to identify where it's very much type of eating that comes from your mouth and your mind, that all of a sudden you think about a food and you really just have to have and want to eat that food, and there becomes an urgency that you want to eat the food instantly and just sort of get it in your body and in your mouth.
Well, I do that with, this kind of relates to comfort food, doesn't it? We hear the term comfort food.
Right. And the word comfort food is so comforting.
Well, yes, and especially so it's comforting some kind of an emotion. But comfort foods are, normally foods that are just like, I don't think anybody's ever said, wow, my comfort food is a head of lettuce or a celery stick.
Right, and I don't think there's really an issue. It's a holiday, it's a time to celebrate, and I think that food has an important role in it, and enjoying whether it's your comfort food or whether it's cake or turkey or whatever it might be. But I think there's a role in just recognizing what the role of food is, and eating it when you want it, and not just eating it because it's sitting around the next day or 3 days later, or because your colleague at work brought in her leftover comfort food because she didn't want to eat anymore. Now you eat it at work on Monday.
Dr. Alana Reese-Fine is my guest. She's with Partners in Healing. You can find them, by the way, at pih-mpls.com. What are some of these cues for emotional eating?
Some of the cues might be if you turn around and you've already eaten your food and you just notice that your wrapper is gone, that you are an emotional eater. I think another cue might be if you know that there's a situation that causes you a lot of stress and that you tend to eat more or become emotional. There are preemptive things that you could do to try to ease the stressful situation before you get to it, whether it means not sitting next at the table of the person who makes you crazy, or or it could be calling them up before the holidays and talking to them and trying to avoid whatever problem might be.
Oh, so you sort of short-circuit that. Hey, without wanting to point the finger here, but it does come up frequently. Can I ask this question? Because you deal with a lot of people with eating disorders, and whether it's overeating or going the opposite way. How much are moms to blame for eating? I mean, is it because when you stop and think about it, Dr. Fine, you moms are the ones I put this on here. Try this, eat this. If you don't eat this, I went to all this trouble to fix this. Now you need to eat this. Does that make sense?
Right. Well, I think, first of all, I'm answering as a mother and as a child. I think that mothers do their best trying to offer food and really feel, a lot of mothers feel that that's their role. And then I think that it's okay to take some, but then there's a point where are you eating it because you're hungry, or are you eating it because your mother's giving it to you? And that at some point it's okay to tell your mother no, that you're just happy to sit around and really be with her and your family, and that you don't necessarily have to eat everything that's on the table.
You offer up some tips, and it's good things to know, because we are we've got Thanksgiving today, a day centered around, it seems to be eating. That is, the idea behind this. But you have some good tips in there, some ideas that you can employ to keep you from overeating at this time of year.
Right. Well, I think also just being aware that this time period, it's not just Thanksgiving, but this sort of opens up the door to the next 5-6 weeks of being times of eating. And there are things that we could do, whether it's exercising, which increases satiation, whether it's when people ask you for gifts, you could tell them that you want them to cover the enrollment fee at your gym. Journaling helps people write down and just developing an awareness of what they're eating.
Wait. Pause here for this. Journaling, you mean keep track of just make a note of the things that you eat during the day?
Right, and that's one of the things that's most highly correlated with people being successful at weight loss, is just writing down and being aware of what you're eating. It makes you accountable. It makes you really think about what your food choices are, and that's a very high predictor of success.
Well, now, wait, back to the earlier thing, too. You mentioned the exercise. You referred to that as being what?
Well, exercise is really good because exercise sort of increases people's endorphins and good feelings that they have in their own brains.
But doesn't it increase our appetites, too?
Right, and that's a really interesting thing. It's not as much that it increases their appetites, but I think what a lot of people do is after they exercise, they think then they have the green light to sit down at Thanksgiving or whenever and eat whatever they want. But it's much harder to burn calories than it is to gain calories. So often people think, oh, I went to the gym, I could have a muffin, I could have a cake, I could have a bagel and eat whatever they want. But you still have to be careful afterwards.
No, I laugh because I have been on some sort of exercise device where it shows you calories burned, and I'm thinking, okay, that's one beer gone. And I look at the calories that are there, and I'm just counting down, like exactly as you're saying. It's like, oh, now when I get home, I can replace that with 3 more beers because I took 3 out.
Right, but people don't always exercise as much as the little number tells them on the elliptical.
Yeah, we're not exactly in sync with that. Hey, something else you like to leave people with, too, as we're talking about this. If people realize that there might be a reason besides physical hunger that they're eating, if they come to that realization that whether it might be an emotional hunger or something like that, the idea is still, and especially if it's problematic, you can get some help for something like this.
Right. I think that's a great time to seek professional help, whether it's a therapist in a group like mine, or Partners in Healing, or within one of the other qualified professional groups or individuals in the area. But it's a time, and it's a nice time of year to really look and be able to take care of yourself. That it's another way to celebrate yourself during this holiday time, is getting what you need, and it might not necessarily be through food, but it just might be really working on yourself and growing as a person.
Well, and the other thing that comes up too with this, people say, oh, just enjoy it. It's just this time of year. It only comes around once a year. It's kind of the same mentality we use at the state fair. I'm just going to eat whatever I want. It's the state fair, gosh. But for some people, they go 10 days, and they do that for 10 days. And this holiday is not just one day. As you said, it goes through several weeks here where we'll be coming in contact with that plate of cookies that came from the cookie exchange.
Exactly. And people typically gain 1 to 2 pounds a year, and it's the way that people collect as we go through life. And if people are gaining that 1 to 2 pounds during the holidays, it seems that by targeting this time of year, it's a real good way to be able to target weight gain that people go through over time.
Well, good stuff, Dr. Alana Reese Fine. Did you have your Thanksgiving Day dinner already?
I'm going in 10 minutes.
Okay. And now, do you employ these things in your own life, or do you just let yourself go just like for one day here it's a meal? I mean, or did you did you leave yourself physically hungry?
Well, I did exercise this morning, so I am hungry. So I did actually just have an apple and a banana because I didn't want to go to my meal starving.
Ah.
And I think that we really also will take time to really appreciate all the blessings that we're going to have at our table, including the people that we're eating with, and the gorgeous, beautiful day to celebrate.
All right. Hey, good stuff. Thank you so much for being on this afternoon. Have a great Thanksgiving Day.
Thanks. You too.
And continue through the holiday season.
Thanks.
I appreciate that very, very much. We'll take a break here. Quick note, too. I want to mention this on the sports scoreboard in case you're keeping track. Packers stay